As I have prepared this for you, it's like the Lord has been guiding me in everything that has needed to take place today. The Lord loves you, and He wants you to have this information. And He is aware of what we have been going through. And so after my 32 years of marriage, I had been planning for 10 years. When my baby was going to turn 18, that was going to be the deadline. So I prepared for 10 years, my divorce. I don't know what else I could have done with the little knowledge that I had at the time on how to deal with toxic behaviors and how to get out unscathed. And so when I came out on the other side, it was like the most amazing feeling to feel like I had made it, that I had survived that long and I was able to get out. Then I started to wonder, after the isolation and everything, and I had ended up being so alone afterwards, I thought, something's wrong with this picture. And I'm pretty sure that when my friends had people in their family who died, they got a casserole. And when their kids were sick, and when we had babies, they got a casserole. Where's my casserole? This is worse than everything I've ever gone through on top of each other. I want a casserole. I mean, why is it that I have been deserted through this horrible experience? Where's my ward members? Where's my family? Where's my friends? It was like everybody went into hiding. And so I thought, I wonder if this is normal. And so I put together a survey online, and I advertised through all the different single Facebook groups and said, would you please take my survey? I want to know what your experience through divorce in the church was like. And there's like 70 questions. How was your home teachers? How was your bishop? How was your visiting teachers? What could they have done better? What did they do that was good? And I just picked them apart with questions, asking them, we need to know, because this has got to be done. This is not right the way it's being done. We need to do better in supporting each other. And so after the survey, I had all kinds of great information. It was so helpful to know that I was not alone, and I was not, this was not an isolated incident. And so the Facebook group I put together right after my divorce is called the LDS Divorce Survivors. And I think I did it because I was so lonely. I wanted to talk to other people who were in the same boat. And then I put together a blog. And I thought, I'm going to take the stuff I've been learning and put it onto a blog and just keep adding these articles as I research. And so the blog is called Divorce in the LDS Community. And I do not bash the church. This is not a church bashing thing. I mean, we have some cultural problems we need to fix. And so the church is true. The leaders are true and inspired. And, we as a people need to do better in supporting each other and having a better awareness. The red flags in a relationship. The one thing I wanted to know was, how did I get here? How did I miss all the signs? Why in the world did I end up in this place? Am I that stupid? Am I just like, woohoo, And are there that many people out there like me? And so I had to research this, because even after I came out of it on the other side, I didn't know the answers. I still didn't know. Even when I was done with the divorce, I didn't know how I got here. So I thought, I am going to learn what I did. That is what I'm going to show you today. So in the studies that I was doing when I was asking adults, these are the statistics. The next few slides will be what I had learned about in our church. Divorce statistics. 50% of the members end in divorce. Okay, we're not the minority, ladies and gentlemen. So why are we feeling like that? 80% of the brethren leave the church after divorce. 40% of the sisters leave the church after divorce. 60% of members leave post-divorce, and their children. Okay, do we have a problem in our church? Yes, we do. Okay, now we've got this huge segment of people leaving the church and taking their kids with them. That's a large percent. I think that's a problem. What can we do about that? We've got to fix that. We need to make it not such a toxic place for you to be when you're single. And then you are asking yourself, how did this happen to me? I married a return missionary. Or I was a return missionary. Or I got married in the temple. Or not. I'm a righteous, nice person. So how did this happen? You're all asking that, aren't you? How did this happen to me? So this was from my studies. When asking people what were the causes, now this is obviously doesn't add up math-wise, but it's because there were usually more than one cause that caused a divorce. The highest percent is abuse on some level. That was shocking to me. The next one, more than 50% was infidelity. What? We know what our leaders are teaching. How did this happen? We also know that Satan has focused his forces on righteous people, and there has been such an attack on our church members. So addiction, personality disorders. 20 years ago, this was the #1 reason right here, finances. People fighting over finances. Now look at it. So let's talk about the one aspect of abuse. Now abuse, sometimes you're dealing with addiction, you're dealing with, all those things combined leads to abuse. If they're cheating on you, then they have to make you feel like it's your fault. This is why I had to beat you, because you did something wrong. Now I'm justified in doing what I'm doing. So let's talk about the abuse in all its forms. Many people believe that if you don't have a bruise, if you're not beat, if you don't have broken bones, then you're not abused. But studies have shown that it doesn't matter what kind of abuse, you have the same results in people. They are still just as damaged, whether it's a physical abuse or sexual or emotional, any kind of abuse, you'll have the same results. What is abuse? Abuse takes in many forms. It can be physical, sexual, emotional, verbal, and also neglect. Permitting harmful contact on the victim's body or verbally accusing them. The victim will humiliate or bring shame to the victim. That's one of their favorite games. Embarrassing them, humiliating them. All abuse could result to serious consequence that will lead to mental illness or even death. Okay, this cycle, this wheel right here, if you go and talk to your bishop, he has this in his handbook, his marriage handbook. So what most people don't know are what people use for power and control. They always use this. All abusers are the same. All creeps, all jerks, this is the stuff they do. So they try to control you, they try to isolate you. And the sad thing is that if you have been abused over a long period of time, you will believe it. You will believe what they say to you, and you will become this person who has lost their feelings of identity, their importance, their self-esteem, and they feel like the scum of the earth. And the hard part about it is if you try to get help, nobody will believe you. You're unbelievable. You'll look like a crazy person. You're frantic and you're upset and you're freaking out and you look like you've lost your mind. And they come in all calm and charming and, so obviously they're going to believe them. So that's the hard part about being a victim is that you have had all of your confidence stripped away and you've lost the peace and you are frantic and you look crazy. So I'm starting to remember who I was before you convinced me I was worthless. Unless you are a survival of emotional abuse when you have no idea what it means to fight daily battles in your head with a person you no longer have contact with. Just because it stopped doesn't mean it goes away. Verbal, emotional, and physical abuse has residual effects on the survivor. You don't just get over it. He didn't hit her, but he destroyed everything she had. I don't know if she even realized it was abuse because it wasn't physical. It was mental. People don't think of that as being abused. So, what are the symptoms that we have as victims, and how do I recognize that in other people? If someone around me is going through this, I want to help them because I've been there, and I'm going to be the one who's going to be compassionate and be able to help them and give them that support because they're looking for people who might understand and who would get it. And you can be that person because you've been there. So what are the signs and symptoms that we would look for in victims? They seem afraid or anxious to please their partner. I have to go home from the baby shower early because my husband wants me to be there right on time, or my wife, or whatever. They're just really nervous about being late. or not following through. They'll make little comments that makes you see that there's a lot of anxiety behind not pleasing their partner. They go along with everything their partner says and does. They check in often to report. They expect you to check in and let them know exactly where you are and what you're doing every minute. And they will be giving you frequent harassing phone calls. So if you're apart, then they have to be still controlling you. I can't let you out of my control for a minute. So even if you're gone, I'm going to make sure that you're still under my control. They talk about their partner's temper, or they mention, oh, my wife is so jealous, I can't do anything, I have to be home exactly 15 minutes after I leave work, or they're going to be checking up on me, or they're very possessive. I'm not allowed to go out with my girlfriends because he will get upset, or whatever, sorry, I can't go golfing with the guys because my wife will think I'm having an affair or something. So, frequent injuries with excuses such as, oh, I fell down the stairs, it was an accident. You see that often enough, okay, that needs to be a red flag to you. There's something going on in this person's home. Frequently misses work, school, social activities. Most of the time they're not going to be allowed to go to social activities. The long-term effects of abuse: emotional difficulties such as anger, anxiety, sadness, low self-esteem. So a lot of times the person who's having, they just break down and have this temper tantrum. Oh, well, obviously you're the one that's the problem. This is what they bring you to this point to where you're keeping it in and you're keeping it in and you're keeping it in, and then you blow up. I'm obviously the bad person because I just lost my top. I blew my top. Not necessarily. Not if you're a victim. This is what happens. You stuff it, you stuff it, you stuff it, you explode. You stuff it, you stuff it, you stuff it, you explode. So, the interesting thing, and this is going to really tick you off, which is the point. I wanted to tick you off. Abusers are able to control their behavior. They pick and choose whom they're going to abuse. They carefully choose when and where to abuse. And they are able to stop it when it benefits them. If they're doing it physically, they will direct the blows in places where they will not be seen. And then once they leave the house, they're as charming as can be, and no one would ever believe that someone as nice as that could be an abusive person. They are typically cowards and only abuse when they think they are themselves safe. So this is the important thing for you to understand about abusers is how they think. Why are they like this? So once you get inside their brain and understand it, then you know how to protect yourself. Okay? So this is how they rationalize that what they're doing to you is okay. As long as I do good deeds on occasion, I will be saved with God. I just have to make the balance even between bad actions and good, and then I will be okay. So I picked up a hitchhiker today on work, so that takes care of a year of abusing you. I'm even. I did something nice, so I'm still going to heaven. So as long as I do as much good as I do bad, that makes it okay. I don't know what scripture they read, because that's not anywhere in the Book of Mormon, not anywhere in the Bible. But for some, this is how they think. And it's not that they don't believe in God, they do. And it's not like they don't believe in hell and heaven, they do. They have got this in their head, that as long as they have this balance, then it's going to be okay for them. So how do we learn to differentiate the wolves in sheep's clothing so we don't get ourselves caught in this situation again? So I might have changed the scripture a little bit. Beware of false Peter priesthood Molly Mormons, who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns, compassion from an abuser, or figs of thistles, caring from addiction? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree, honest person, cannot bring forth evil fruit. And dishonest actions and behaviors Neither can a corrupt tree, a dishonest person, bring forth good fruit, such as a trusting marriage. Wherefore, by their fruits ye shall know them. So the point is that you have to get to know them well enough that you know what their fruits are, and not just what they're telling you. So we ask ourselves these questions. Does that make sense? You're like, oh, so once I fell in love with the person, it was like putting blinders on. Yes, it was. That's why we have to go into this so slowly and hold on to our hearts until we know exactly what we're getting into. So now the next question is you need to understand is why did they pick you instead of someone else? They were attracted to you because you were amazing. You're extraordinary. You were bubbly. You were the life of the party. You were so fun. You made them feel amazing. You made them feel wonderful. They wanted to be with you. They felt amazing when you were with them. That's how they picked you. That's one of them. Because something in your home life crossed your boundaries, and so that you did not understand what proper boundaries were. So when they crossed your boundaries, you didn't know that there was a problem. Because you are a nice person, empathetic people fixer who felt you could help them. I'm sure that they'll do better with me. If they get this constant, love from me, and I'm reassuring them all the time, all of those holes in their soul are going to be fixed because they're going to be healed with my love. And so then they're going to be fine. You're all like, yeah, I did that. Because you were open and honest and vulnerable and trusting. Is that a bad thing? No, it's not. Because you made them feel wonderful about themselves. Because you were naive and innocent and believed their lies and put up with their crap over and over and over again. We're taught to be forgiving. We're taught to give people the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure that he didn't mean that. I'm sure this was an isolated incident. It wasn't really, what it seemed to be. I'm sure I just read that wrong. I mean, have you heard this record going on in your head? How many times? We make up excuses for them. And because we did not have healthy boundaries. Our childhood. This isn't the situation with everybody who's been abused, but a lot of times we have a narcissistic mother or father or people in our life. But this is really interesting to me. So let's talk about boundaries. Signs of healthy boundaries. Are you able to say no and not feel terribly guilty about it? Asking for what you want or need. Can you do that? Can you ask people for help? Can you do that? Are you good at taking care of yourself? When you do say yes, is it because you want to or because you feel obligated, like you have to do it, or because you're trying to please others? Behaving according to your values and beliefs. Those are our personal boundaries, our beliefs and boundaries and values. Do you feel safe to express difficult emotions and have disagreements? Is that okay? Or do you just have to keep all of your stuff to yourself? Because it's not safe. Feeling supported to pursue your own goals, being treated as an equal, taking responsibility for your own happiness, and not feeling responsible for someone else's happiness. I'm miserable because of you. You don't, do things perfectly, so therefore my life is ruined. Are you in tune with your own feelings, or are you allowed to have any? Knowing who you are, what you believe, and what you like. Or did we have to set all that aside for making room for what other people want and like and expect us to be? Boundaries are for both sides. They protect you and they protect me. When you have healthy boundaries and I have healthy boundaries, we can be good friends. Why do we need boundaries? So if we don't have personal boundaries to protect us, then we are not safe. And no one else is going to establish your boundaries for you. How do I know when I'm not using my boundaries properly? When you feel yourself becoming angry, resentful, or exhausted, pay attention to where you haven't set a healthy boundary. There you go. There's your trigger right there. You say, something's wrong. I have done something wrong. So no is a complete sentence. So unhealthy boundaries. What does that look like? Signs of unhealthy boundaries. Mental health is something you want to hang on to as much as possible. Givers have to set limits because takers never do. And don't trust everything you see, even salt looks like sugar. I liked that one. Okay, red flags. This is what you've been waiting for. I wanted to make sure you understood exactly how it was you got to this place before we went into, okay, here's the red flags you need to watch out for. Because before you start even dating and getting into that thing, you need to make sure you get yourself healed and in a healthy place so that you're not sucked into this again. Narcissists, sociopaths, reactive attachment disorders, borderline personality disorders, psychopaths, jerks, porcupines, players, or sex addicts. And I can think of a few other words, but I didn't want to mention them in here. People who just are contentious in love to keep your world upside down. Okay, so red flags. They are being physically abusive. If someone is being physically abusive while you're dating, okay, everything that happens while you're dating gets 10 times worse when you're married. So if you think they're going to go get better than this, hate to tell you, folks, that that's not the way it works. So you're not going to convince them to do different once you're married. Do not marry someone you feel like you need to fix. So if they're doing this, you're done. And I remember I had an uncle who, right after they got married, he beat his wife. She packed up and went home. And he was so surprised. It's like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm not going to be married to someone who's going to beat me. We're done. I'm getting a divorce. And he was like, really? Oh, okay, then I won't anymore. And she's like, I don't know. So she's like, I'll give you one more chance. If it ever happens again, I'm gone. And it never happened again. She had boundaries. You're not doing this kind of thing to me. They show a lack of empathy. Okay, this is huge. If you can figure out this while you're dating, that they lack empathy, if you tell them stories that should just have them crying and they're looking bored, okay, red flag. Consistently putting their needs before yours. When you state your needs, they're laughed at, like, who cares about your needs? Mine are the only ones that matter. Why would I care about what you're needing? You are consistently being made to feel embarrassed or humiliated. Do you come home from dates and just feel horrible? That's a sign. Consistent lying. Okay, if you catch them in a lie, they're probably liars. I don't know, just saying. They have an elevated sense of self, and they play the victim. They are typically depressed and have low energy, emptiness, flatness, no motivation. So, okay, let me give you the brain of these people. They're bored. They're bored people. That's why they manipulate you. That's why they play games with you, because it's stimulating. It's like a drug. It gives them a high. It's fun. It makes them feel powerful. I have to turn everyone into puppets for my entertainment. Typically, they're really depressed. There's some shame going on or something going on, and so you're their toy. Extreme mood swings. They're arrogant. They never apologize because they are perfect and can never do anything wrong. So if you think it's wrong, then it must have been something you did. And they know everything, and they're always above everyone else. So they're the final word. They're the expert in the room. Here's the one who's going to set you straight. There's a fake morality, okay? They go around better than everybody else and pointing out what you're doing wrong in the keeping of the commandments. And then they go out and sleep with people. So there's a fake morality behind them. They're extremely self-centered. They're stubborn, and there's only one way of seeing things, and it's their way. There is no respect for other people's boundaries, and they're hypersensitive to criticism. They say inappropriate things that make you feel uncomfortable because they like to get a reaction out of you. They pressure you to give up your hobbies and interests. Your stuff isn't important, only mine is. You need to be supporting me all the time. So give up all your friends, give up all your hobbies, give up everything, and just sit around and wait for me. Make it all about me. Your life is about me. Constantly put down people who are close to you. Okay, the first thing they're going to start doing is isolating you from your friends and family and supporters. So they're going to try to tell you things to hate about your friends and family and supporters so that you'll be angry at them and not look for their support. And they will most likely do the same thing to your friends about you. They will get angry when you spend time with other important people in your life. Red flag. What? You want to go have lunch with your mother? Why would you want to do that? Because she's my mother. They make you cry all the time. If you're crying, it's a flag. Hello. Do you want to get into a relationship where you're crying all the time? They make you feel that you deserve this treatment and brought it on yourself. If you'd only be perfect. They make you feel worthless or stupid. They keep you from doing things you want to do. They act super jealous and possessive. They shove, slap, or hit you. They threaten to hurt or kill themselves. They hide things from you. She needs to fly somewhere. I know, I'll hide her license so then she won't have any ID. That would be really hilarious. They hide things from you that are important. They always expect to get their way. There's only one person that's important in this room, and it's me, so I'm the one calling the shots. And they push for inappropriate intimacy. They come up with this new religion called whatever I want, whatever feels good for me. So this is how you feel when you've been left, okay? They up and left you. And you're like, what did I do wrong? Why did he or she leave me? I thought I was the perfect husband or wife. What happened? They have an insatiable appetite for attention and the intoxicating excitement of infatuation. They feel trapped in relationships and are addicted to new love. When the honeymoon hormones stop flowing with you, they drop you and move on immediately. So that honeymoon hormone is what you're going through when you're first dating someone, and there's that excitement and this is so amazing and stuff, but at some point you catch on to them. The worship stops and you start saying, you know what? You're kind of a creep. And then he's like, oh, well, you're not any fun anymore. I don't feel amazing anymore because you figured me out. Time to move on. And they drop you like that and they are gone, just like that, to someone else who will worship them until they figure them out too. And then they drop them and move on to someone else. This is the pattern. They flatter you one minute and put you down the next. Now, this is how they got you in the first place. They were charming you and they were so nice and they said all these lovely things that you love to hear and you needed to hear that. And so they sucked you in with all of this, putting you up on a pedestal, and then they started in on this little bit of criticism here and a compliment with the criticism at the end, and then you're like, oh, I'm falling off my pedestal. I need to work harder to get back up on my pedestal. So you're bending over backwards trying to get back up on your pedestal. And it seems to get harder and harder to get back up there as you get sucked into this relationship, and now they've got you because you're trying to get back up on that place where you felt so amazing. That's why we end up marrying these guys, these gals. Because I always wondered, how did they do it? They isolate you from others, specifically your support group. So as soon as you feel like you're suddenly all alone in the world, you think, okay, what just happened? They stalk you, call constantly to check on you, and they don't trust you. And we'll talk about why they do that. They make you feel responsible for their happiness and their unhappiness. Everything is your fault. They flirt with others in front of you or behind your back. They act like they will never survive without you, and they guilt trip you to death. They act like you are lucky to have them and no one else would ever want you. So you're just lucky that I'm putting up with you, the scum that you are. That's how they treat you. Make you feel like you have to be perfect or you'll be sorry. They threaten to hurt a loved one. They make you feel badly about your religious beliefs and try to change them to a more free-thinking belief. They make you feel like you will never find another who would love you. Gaslighting and crazy-making. They're contentious. They argue everything you say or do. And they're always taking the opposite point of view. And it's not because they believe it. It's just because they love contention. Because it is a high for them. They love seeing the controller getting you upset. What is gaslighting? Okay, there is an old movie that you have to see. It's called Gaslight. And your homework assignment is to go home and watch this because you will watch this take place. So that's hard to understand. But what they like to do is they want you to feel crazy. They want everyone else to think you're crazy. So they will, like in the movie, the man comes up to his wife and says, here is a very valuable jewel that is handed down from my grandmother or something, and I'm giving it to you. but don't lose it, because it's really important. And she's, oh, I don't know if I trust myself to, not lose this. And so she puts it in her pocket. And then they go to this big event. And so then he sneaks it out of her pocket when she's not looking. And then he says to her, you should wear that. It would really look nice on what you're wearing. You should put that brooch on. And so she reaches into her pocket and it's gone. And he's like, what have you done? You have lost this important thing. How can you not remember what you did with it? Is there something wrong with you? And so then throughout the movie, he is making her think she's crazy. And then he does this to all of her friends and family, kind of having to keep her isolated for a while because she's dealing with some stuff. I'm really concerned about her. Pray for her. Now, they do this a lot. So if people come to you, oh, I'm really worried about my wife. She's kind of going crazy. You better pray for her. Okay, look at that person and say, I don't think so. I know this person. And we don't want to be falling for this when they're trying it on us. But they will do this. They will pull everybody in that is your support group and tell them all this stuff about you so that you won't have any support, so that they are easier prey and they can have their way with their victim. So we have to be really careful that we're recognizing it when it's happening to us, the games that they're trying to play to make you look like you're crazy to other people. And if you try to tell people that you will look crazy, you try to explain it to them, you will look crazy. So more red flags. This is the brain of one of these people. This is how they think. They're arrogant and they never apologize. They're never wrong. They're superior to everyone. And they're extremely self-centered and stubborn. They project themselves as rescuers and are terrible. And they have this ostentatious vulnerability. So they're always coming across as, I need you to save me. You need to rescue me. I've got these people in my life who are making it hard for me. And then everybody's like, oh, you poor thing. Let me come and help you with this person who's picking on you. They have a lot of passive-aggressive behaviors. They appear confident, but they're very, very insecure. They appear to be a good listener and are overly attentive. But what they're doing is they're looking for your buttons. So they'll be, oh, tell me about your childhood. Tell me about, and they just seem to be so interested. And you're like, wow, this person is so interested in me. And they're asking all these important questions about my life. And this is so great. He cares. And you're just spilling your guts all over the place. And he's thinking, okay, she doesn't like the dark. And he's making notes of all of your weak and vulnerable places that you are revealing to them in your conversation. And he's making out his plan of how he's going to bring you down. Okay? They're not good listeners. They're listening for your buttons. And they're figuring out their game plan against you. So think about this when you're telling too much to someone you don't know very well. The rules, commandments, laws, boundaries of any kind do not apply to them, just everybody else. Some of their tactics, very wounding tactics against survivors, and I'm talking in the church, is when narcissists, sociopaths, and psychopaths are able to align church leaders behind their agenda against the victim. Many abusers can easily manipulate and triangulate church leaders. Why? Most church leaders are not trained to spot psychological abuse. And if the abuser says all the right religious statements, the leaders take the abuser's word at face value. Once the toxic person has poisoned the situation with lies, the survivor will have a very difficult time convincing the leaders of the truth. And there's another one, baiting and bashing. Abusive people enjoy this framing game. They provoke their chosen target for a reaction, then claim it as evidence of mental instability. So they get you mad, or they hurt your feelings and get you to cry, and they're like, see, look at you. What's wrong with you? Why are you acting like that? It's your fault. You're crazy. Evil-mindedness or something else that implies it is the victim who is at fault, diverting all attention away from his own behavior. The bully seeks support from others, turning them against his target. It can be devastating for an individual who already is suffering from mistreatment to be blamed, slandered, rejected, and isolated as well. The abuser enjoys the sense of power and control he derives from tormenting with impunity, and the positive attention he gets from playing the victim and fishing for sympathy. It is also an effective method of intimidating his target from attempting to speak up and expose the truth. More tactics. Diversion tactic number 6, nitpicking and moving the goalposts. So they keep moving. When you get here, then I will treat you nice again. Oh, I meant here. I meant here. I meant here. You're never going to get there because they are not nice. So this is what the tricks they use. That this is why it's your fault that I'm not treating you well. A common type of abuse tactic is called orchestrating. This is where the abuser deliberately creates a situation where the victim becomes agitated, has to defend herself, or has to act in a manner that he can justify defending himself, and then punishes her for her behavior. Usually when the cops are called, it looks like he's defending himself. He is calm, and she is severely agitated, and it looks like she's the crazy one, and this happens in court all the time, and it works. It makes her question her sanity. Friends turn against her for defending herself. She gets blamed for her own abuse, and it essentially destroys her psychologically, as well as her ability to have meaningful relationships because she no longer trusts herself or others. And she views herself as the problem, but everything was orchestrated to where her abuse is her own fault. So this is a tactic they use. They provoke you, and then you react, and you are the bad guy. So be careful when you're dealing with these guys, because this is what they're trying to draw out of you so that you can look like the bad guy. As long as you're getting this kind of information, then you'll recognize when they're pulling stuff on you. So other people exist for the purposes of their exploitation and self-gratification and stimuli. If you don't supply this, they move on. When cornered, they attack and blame you. Projection. They mirror. Now this is really important for you to understand. They mirror. They accuse you or others of doing what they are doing. If you want to know what they're up to, listen to what they're accusing you or others of doing. So if they're accusing you of cheating on them, it's because they're cheating on you. All you do is reverse everything they say, and there's the truth. They only know what they're doing, and that's all they know how to come up with. If your toxic person is a sociopath or psychopath, you most likely were being poisoned, stalked, and were having your car messed with. If you are feeling sicker than usual and have more flat tires, leaky brake fluid, or whatever than usual, be very careful. Start a police file, keep a daily diary of happenings, take pictures, keep conversations filed, get witness statements, get high security in your home, change locks, secure every window and door. Your life is in danger. Now, you'd be amazed at how many sociopaths are out there. And usually when a woman goes to the police and says, I feel in danger, this is what's going on, I need a protective order, usually they don't figure out the guy was a sociopath until she's been killed, or he. And then it's too late. So if you're dealing with someone who has no respect for your life or anyone else's, then you need to be taking all the kinds of precautions because no one else is out there to help protect you. Have you ever heard of the term hoovering? I thought this was great. Hoovering is what narcissists do after they've discarded you. Now, they can't just let you go. They have to have a collection of victims. They're not just going to move on to someone else and now they're my victim. No, they're going to keep all their past victims. And so what they do is they call and say, hey, I was thinking about you today. Why don't we go have some lunch? And you're heartbroken still because they dumped you. And you're like, oh, I'm sure it would be fine if we just did lunch. It's only lunch. How bad could that be? Okay, let's do lunch. And they're like, okay, great. I can't wait to see you. And then they don't show up. Why? They just wanted to know if they still had control over you. They're going to do these little games all the time just to make sure they still are in control. So it's called hoovering, like a vacuum cleaner. The art of being sucked back into the so-called relationship. Sucking the life out of you like a Hoover vacuum cleaner. Treating you like dirt to appease their ego So don't fall for it. They're not going to change. They're not going to have this paradigm shift and all of a sudden you're all, that like when you first met. It's never going to be that. You're never going to have that with the narcissist, with a toxic person. They are not going to change. You cannot change them. They have to want to change, and they don't want to. They don't know that there's anything wrong with them because they're perfect. So the magic questions to reveal a narcissist. Are you ready? You're going to be blown away. In what ways do you think you need to grow or change? I was just thinking that I needed to work more on cleanliness, like how we have these clutter spots around my. What about you? What kind of things do you think you could improve on? What's the reaction going to be? What? Are you saying I'm not perfect? Are you saying that I have something wrong with me, or that there could be a possibility of my not being perfect? Who do you think you are? What kind of question is that? They will be offended that you ask such a thing, okay? So ask the question. Whatever questions they ask you, remember I told you they ask questions because they're trying to find out all kinds of information about you. You ask them the same question back. Narcissists do not like to talk about themselves. Unless there's something they're trying to convince you of. Then they're like, hey, yeah, I was this champion, whatever. But they will not talk about their childhood. They will not talk about their past, period. Because they know that information they think that you're going to do the same thing to them that they're doing to you. So their information is very secretive. And you probably found that the whole time you're with these people. They're very secretive. They don't like any information given out. So throw back the same question they asked you. And after a while, they're going to be like, this person's too intrusive into my stuff. Even though they're asking you the questions, just ask them the same questions back. And they will stop asking you questions and they will go on to someone else. For all they know, you're trying to figure me out and you're trying to find my buttons. You're going to do the same thing to me. Questions about human emotions, such as share something that should make a person cry. Or make them, oh my gosh, how did you put up with that? That was so terrible. They don't show the proper emotions. That's a red flag. Watch for that empathy. Watch for compassion. Watch for boredom or irritation or changing the subject. Ask about past relationships with the family, friends, ex-girlfriends, ex-wives or husbands, ex-business partners. Usually, they were always the victim. They will tell you that they were a victim to all these people, meaning they victimized them all. They're always the victim. And are they disrespectful of all past relationships? If they can say, oh, I just had the best parents. My parents are great. One of the things that I was so impressed with Scott when we were at this family home evening in the singles ward in California, everybody was like, let's have the story that, who had the worst divorce story, kind of thing. And so it came to his turn. He's like, oh, it's probably my fault. And I married a beautiful woman, and she was great. And he refused to say anything bad about her. And I'm not that way. I'm you ask me, I'll tell you what I went through. But he will not talk bad about people. Watch for that. Are they always down on everybody? Are they really just so negative? Be smart. The trust of the innocent is the liar's most useful tool. So we just have to learn in this life how to protect ourselves when we are good, honest people. We tend to believe that other people are like ourselves. And because they are dishonest people, they believe everybody's like them. Lie indicators. How can I tell when they're lying to me? Right? We all want to know this. The individual is sweating or fidgeting or touching their ears, their face, or playing with their hair or clothes. They suddenly become uncomfortable. So that's the body language. The inability to provide details in a story. So if they tell this thing, so really, what color car was it? What were you wearing? And if they can't come up with details of this big story they just told you about why they were fired or whatever. Failure to make eye contact or holding it too long. If they're avoiding your eye contact altogether, or they're looking right into your eyes to see if you're going to believe them. The eyebrows are drawn upward toward the middle of the forehead. Now this is because they're thinking. They're not remembering, they're thinking. They're trying to come up with something. Pupils are dilated. The body knows when you're lying, and it reacts. It's interesting. There's a rise in their vocal pitch. Their voice speeds up. They have a defensive tone, and it turns back on you. They say things like, to be honest with you. So here we have the looking up to the left, the raised eyebrows, the hand fidgeting, and the mouth. You can tell by her expression that she's not happy about the question. If I tell the truth, I'm going to look bad, so I have to make something up. So the reason why she's looking up to the left is because that's the part of the brain where the imagination is. She's trying to come up with something. She's trying to make it up. You look at other places, and those are memories. Those are where memories are stored. But up there is making up. That's why they do that. How he or she treats you is how he or she feels about you. Don't try to decode it or make excuses. It's simple. If he or she acts like he or she doesn't care, he or she doesn't care. Like in the scriptures, therefore he, the Savior, said unto them, the single adults, the harvest, meaning worthy, wonderful options for marriage partners, truly is great, but the laborers are few, those putting in the effort to seek out. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest that he would send forth laborers, worthy men and women who actually go on dates and are seeking a spouse into his harvest. So that's what we're hoping for, right? Go your ways. Behold, I send you forth as lambs, good, honest, faithful, covenant, commandment keepers, among wolves, those pretending to be. This explains their brain. So they're kind of caught in this vicious cycle. They hate us because we're normal, but they need us because they're not able to care for themselves. They are codependent on us, but they hate us because they are codependent on us. Okay, have you ever heard of the term flying monkeys? This is one of the tactics that they use for isolating you. Flying monkeys can be divided into two main types. Complicit and willing, meaning conspirator, like, hey, let's get together and ruin this person's life. And then the well-meaning dupes, meaning people who were they were deceived into thinking their story. Each of these two types can be further divided into categories: positive intention, negative intention. Some flying monkeys can be very hard to recognize, and some function as flying monkeys entirely without ever realizing it. If we are to protect ourselves from this behavior, it is imperative that we understand these people and how they are utilized against us. So, a narcissistic personality, or toxic, or anything else, mother or husband or wife or friend has flying monkeys. This is a term taken from The Wizard of Oz, where the flying monkeys gang up on an innocent person by order of the Wicked Witch. The flying monkeys may be your neighbors, church members, cult members, siblings, aunts, uncles, grandmother, grandfather, etc. Whoever are your support group. That's who they're going to pull in. These people do the narcissist's dirty work, while often pouring their own abuse on the scapegoat. Perpetrators in causing stalking are also flying monkeys ganging up on a target, which increases the deniability for the one giving the orders. I didn't do it. Someone else did it. It wasn't me. Why would I do that? So they always suck everybody into their little game and point them at the target. Okay, now that I've got you all convinced this person is crazy or mean or nasty or abusive to me, go get them. So if you're getting calls from Aunt Martha who's saying, honey, he's not that bad. I was just talking to him and he's such a sweet boy. You should go back to him. Flying monkey alert. Obviously she didn't call you and say, so what's going on, honey? What's your side of the story? She just got that side of the story and now she's been set on you. Okay, they're going to do that to all your friends. Flying monkeys. Family, friends, neighbors, church members. Watch out for them. Okay, so what if I stay? You will be damned in your eternal progression, like a river stopped by a beaver's dam. Now, you need to understand that when you're in these types of abusive relationships, they stop your progress. You're not allowed to grow. You become so obsessed over survival that everything that you were interested in before stops. You don't have time for hobbies. You don't have the emotional energy for anything that you used to love. And all of the stuff that you used to do and your talents and all that kind of stuff, if you're a writer, speaker, whatever, it all comes to a halt. You have been damned. You have been stopped in your progress. And it's like even emotionally, you are stuck in this place. Studies have shown that kids, when they're abused, stay that age forever until they get help. So they could be 6 for their whole life, emotionally. So wherever age you are when the abuse stops is the emotional age that you are until you get help and get that part of you healed. So a lot of times the victims seem immature. The perpetrators are also immature. So I'm just saying this in case any of you feel like going back into that circumstance that you were in before, which I doubt. Let's remember the story of the rattlesnake. A snake was hit by a car. A woman picks him up and feeds him and gets him back to his full state of health. Because that's what we are. We're nurturers. We love to fix people. He's bleeding. I mean, come on. The poor little rattlesnake. We've got to fix him. We need to save our poor little rattlesnake. Right? But he bites her, injecting her with his deadly venom. And on her deathbed, she asks, "After all I did for you, I put Band-Aids on you, and I nursed you back to health, and I took care of you, and now you're healthy and strong, and this is what you do to me. Why me?" And the snake replies, "You knew I was a snake when you picked me up. So if after all the stuff you have gone through and all the education that you now have, you understand what a rattlesnake is, and you go back into it, whose fault is it?" We have got to quit being so nice. I don't know how else to say it. We have to be careful. We have to protect ourselves. We can't let these snakes get us. So what happened to them to make them like this? I love this picture. He knocked down this poor kid's sandcastle. I hate sandcastles. Most often they are victims of abuse or neglect themselves. And they did not bond with their mothers at birth. Or, I should say, or their needs were not taken care of as an infant, or they were spoiled and doted on. Maybe they're the oldest daughter or son, and there's even the chance that it was hereditary. There are some who believe that this can be passed down through families. And sometimes it's because of iniquity, something that they did. A lot of times these behaviors are shame-based. Something is in their life, whether they were a victim, and a lot of times if they are like a victim of abuse, they think they did something to deserve that. And so they don't want anyone to know about it. So they hide it, and they have this overwhelming shame that they're trying to hide this. And so they're afraid people are going to find out. This shame is what drives this. Now, you're probably saying, yeah, but I was abused as a child, or I had something bad. I've had bad things happen to me, and I don't act like that, right? Does that make it okay because they were a victim of abuse? Does that make it okay for them to victimize other people? People have always believed that if you've been abused, then you're going to abuse. Studies have shown that's not true. Most of the time, they don't. Most of the time, they say, I'm not going to do that. I know how that felt, and I'm not going to do that to my kids or to whoever. It's a matter of who did we choose as our master. Whenever we go through a trial, you decide how you're going to come out of it. Are you going to follow Satan's plan, or are you going to follow Christ's plan? No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. So you're making choices. There's no middle, there's no over there. There's two choices. I react to things that happen to me according to the way Christ said to, or the way that Satan would like me to. Those are the two choices. You chose to follow the Christ's way. That's why you were nice, and that's why you were hurt, and that's why they took advantage of you. And they chose Satan's way because all of these traits that I listed on the board are Satan's traits. That's who he is. That's why they're all the same, is because they're following their leader. They're like their leader. They're becoming more like their leader all the time. And you are trying to become more like Christ. And so you are trying to become a better person, and you're trying to become a more spiritual person, and to become a more aware, and you want to help people because of your problems. This is the huge divide between these two people, the victim and the abuser. unless the victim chooses to be an abuser. It's choices that we make in life. Hurt people hurt people. That's how pain patterns get passed on generation after generation after generation. Break the chain today. Meet anger with sympathy, contempt with compassion, cruelty with kindness. Meet grimaces with smiles. Forgive and forget about finding fault. Love is the weapon of the future. Now, I'm not saying that this is what you do to them. I wanted you to understand where they were coming from, why they are like that. They weren't born mean and nasty. It was about things that happened to them and the choices that they made. So yes, we can have compassion on them, and yes, we can love them and we can feel sorry for them as we stay away from them to protect ourselves. So we have to choose who our master is, Jesus Christ or Satan. So the scriptures. One of the things that we need to understand is that this is a fulfillment of prophecy. Behold, I speak for mine elect's sake, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. And again, because iniquity shall abound, the love of man shall wax cold. The love of man shall wax cold. Does that sound familiar? Does it seem like we have this epidemic of these crazy people and these heartless, narcissistic, toxic people more than ever before? It's a prophecy that it would be like this in the last days. And again, because of iniquity shall abound, the love of men shall wax cold. But he that shall not be overcome, the same shall be saved. So there is our challenge to not become overcome. We need to rise above it and not follow them, not become like that. We overcome. Ye are swift to do iniquity, and I liked the word iniquity, it was in both. But slow to remember the Lord your God. Ye have seen an angel, and he spake unto you. Yea, ye have heard his voice from time to time, and he hath spoken to you in a still small voice. But ye were past feeling, that you could not feel his words. Okay, that lack of empathy. I mean, it just seems like they have no heart, like they have no soul, these people. And you think, that wasn't an actual reaction to this. Oh, then why is it that ye can be so hard in your hearts? Behold, my soul is rent with anguish because of you, and my heart is pained. I fear lest ye shall be cast off forever. That is how we feel on Christ's side. We have that love and compassion for people. And it hurts us to see people make bad decisions that just ruin their lives and ruin the lives of other people. So if they are targeting you, and if you're still going through this, won't you leave me alone? Here are some things that you can learn, some methods that you can learn to get them off your tail so they will stop doing this. First, you've got to get yourself pulled together. You've got to stop having buttons for them to push. So find therapists or whatever you need to do to get yourself healed so that you're not this plaything. Watch this, I'm going to push this button and watch her act, watch this, So you've got to get yourself healed. So 5 tough lessons empaths must learn. First, take care of yourself first. You can't help others when you are broken. Putting up boundaries may distress others. Do it anyway. So when you're going through this transition and you're shifting into healthy boundaries, a lot of people are going to freak out who have been using you and have been stepping over your boundaries. They're all going to be like, hey, what's this? I thought I had a free ride. I thought you were going to always solve all my problems. I thought, they're going to freak out and just be like, hey, this is the new me. Get used to it. You're going to have to go take care of yourself. There's an idea. If a situation is painful, you must get out. Sometimes you can't help the one that you want to help. That's so hard for us to believe, isn't it? We just feel like we should be able to help everybody. You can't save everyone. That's so hard to get into our brains sometimes. So now what? You have to have certain rules. Unless you understand this, you're going to keep getting sucked in, okay? No contact. If you're having to trade kids, all this kind of stuff and go back and forth, have someone else do it. Have them be picking them up at this other place. But whatever you do, you have to orchestrate it so that they're not doing it with you. Have someone else do it when you're trading kids or whatever. Do not engage with them. Don't let them do it. Don't have any contact ever. Never talk on the phone, never text, no contact. That is the number one rule. No contact, okay? Ever. Always be accompanied by a witness they respect or fear. So if you have to meet with them, do not go alone. They will not do stuff with other people watching. They're afraid of other people. They're cowards. So bring someone that they fear or respect, that they will not do this in front of. So make sure that you always have someone with you to protect you. And they are a witness. Never react to their drama or games. Just laugh and walk away. So when they push your button, that usually ticks you off. Just be like, I'm so glad I don't have to put up with that stuff anymore, and walk away. And they'll be like, wait, that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get upset and cry and throw a tantrum, and then everybody's going to see it, and they're all going to be like, oh, you're right, she's crazy, you know. And that's the hardest thing in the world, is to not react, because they're pushing a button that hurts. They're trying to hurt you. They want to hurt you. They want to embarrass you. They want you to embarrass yourself. Don't engage in their attempts to argue and blame. Don't engage. Not going there. Not going to have this conversation. And if you need to, if you're in this kind of a circumstance where they're just dragging you into court all the time, you just need to record every conversation on a recorder. There's an app you can download on your phone. So when you're talking on the phone, it records both sides of the conversation. So if they say in court, well, she was being abusive and she was threatening me to take the kids away, and they're playing the victim, you just play this little, well, this is the conversation. This is how it really went. He was the one threatening me to take the kids. Because they always say the opposite. They're going to sue you for doing what they do to you. And file a police report every time there's an infraction. Every time they break the rules in your decree, every time they do something, break into your house, go to the police. Every time they hit you, every time they, whatever, file a report with the police. You want to be so prepared. We tangled with a toxic person, and now we have to deal with crazy. Now we have to protect ourselves from now on. They are never going to let you go, ever. You can never let up on your security. Record every conversation just in case. Remember, they cannot relationship. You've got to remember, oh, we're just going to have a nice lunch. It's not a big deal. They can't relationship. It's a game. Always remember there's an agenda. Okay? Just understand who they are, what you're dealing with. They are not you. Never ask them for help. Honey, I'm sick today. Can you come over and help me with the kids? I'm just so sick. So he comes over and he says, look, you're not taking care of the kids. I'm going to the court and telling him you're not a good mother. Because look, I'm taking pictures of the kids with runny noses and their hair's a mess. And now I'm going to file that you're neglectful. You cannot ever trust them. They're not normal people. You can't think that they're normal for a second. They're not interested in your kids. Even if they're his kids or her kids. They're not interested in the kids. They don't love anybody. The kids are a part of the game to use against you. In fact, I always wondered if, when we were going through divorce and they were trying to take the kids away, I think if we were to go into it like this, just so you know, you're taking your part of the kids. In fact, why don't you just take them home right now? I have raised them to this age. I'm done. I have already put in my part. Now they're yours. You get them from now on. I think they would never in a second ask for the kids. They would be like, oh, well, if it's not going to bug you, I'm not going to try to get the kids. I was only trying to get them to tick you off because I knew it would hurt you. And if you're like, you better be taking the kids half the time because I want to go and play with my friends and I want to have a good life and I want to do all this fun stuff, so you better be doing your part of babysitting. They'll be like, whoa, wait a minute here. You're not telling me what to do. So you need to understand, you have to understand the game you're playing with these people. They are looking for things to hurt you, so do not give it to them. If they know the kids are it, that's where they're going to go. That's what they're going to go for. Your weakness. Whatever you love. Whatever most important to you. Block them on social media and emails. And their flying monkeys. So until the flying monkeys come around and figure it out, they're going to be spying on you for them. So you learn who your true friends are through this process, unfortunately, and then you have the opportunity of making new friends. And I have made some really great new friends. And I've lost some really great friends who turned into flying monkeys. And it's heartbreaking. It is. When they do this to you. So don't feel guilty if you unfriend them on Facebook. They're going to carry on, oh, that wasn't very nice, and they're going to tell everybody, do you know she unfriended me on Facebook? They're all going to be like, I I can't believe you unfriended him on Facebook. And you're going to get all this, I only have friends on my Facebook. I only have people that I like. I have people who support me and who lift me and who make my life better. I have people in my life who make me happy. And all those other people are no longer my Facebook friends. They're no longer my friends. They're not. I've had this great privilege and opportunity to cut out all of the extra in my life. And it's so much better. So block them. Don't let these people in and don't let their spies in. Okay, there's this thing called gray rock. How many of you heard of gray rocking? Gray rock is becoming a gray rock. Okay, you have to remember that they live for stimulus. Controlling you and making you crazy gives them a high. It's like a drug to them. They cause drama because they're bored. They do all this to you because they're bored. They manipulate people because they're bored. So what's the trick you need to play? Be boring. When you stop reacting and you stop being amazing and all this, they'll lose interest in playing this game with you. If you're going to be at a place where you have to be with him, look your ugliest. Look frumpy. Even if you have to put makeup under your eyes to look like baggy eyes. To look ugly. Look your ugliest. Be boring. Sit there and read a book. Just don't have conversation. Just be as boring as you can. You're going to have to practice being so unstimulating that they are not getting their supply from you. You have to cut off their supply of excitement. No reaction, no stimulus. And then pretty soon their brain is going to learn, you are not feeding me stimulus. I need to go elsewhere. If they get nothing from you, they're trying to start a fight. If they get nothing from you, they'll have to go find a fight elsewhere. Bore them to death. So that is gray rocking. So who are not victims? Okay? And it's really important for you to understand that this was not your fault. Okay? You can't help what happened when you were growing up. This is their problem. This was something wrong with them. This wasn't that you were flawed because they chose you as a target. That wasn't your fault, okay? So the first thing you need to do is forgive yourself for the blindness that put you in the path of those who betrayed you, because sometimes a good heart doesn't see the bad. What you allow is what will continue. And so from here on out, we are going to learn resilience. And because you're here, that shows me how resilient you are. That you've been able to hang in regardless of all of the treachery and the hard times that you've been through. Ships don't sink because of the water around them. Ships sink because of the water that gets in them. Don't let what's happening around you get inside you and weigh you down. So when we've lost a lot, we're in this position to choose who we are going to surround ourselves with. And then you probably are terrified to ever date again. Like, I obviously have really bad taste because look what I just went through. I don't trust my judgment. How do I know this isn't going to happen again? I prayed about it and I got the answer, yes, he's the one or she's the one. Okay, let me tell you how to pray, okay? Don't say, is he the one? Or is she the one? That's not the question. This is the question. These are the questions. The Lord can tell you yes or no. This person will do this for you, or this person will not do this for you. I know the future of this person, and I can tell you whether or not this person's going to make you happy. We just have to be specific in our questions, and not, is he the one? So the number one thing to remember is that most likely your first date you had a feeling. Your gut was telling you something was wrong, and you talked yourself out of it. So always, always trust your first gut instincts. If you feel something is wrong, it usually is. So do I dare date again? Studies show that the happiest people on earth are those that are happily married. So it's a worthy goal. This is what we want. They also show that the most miserable people on earth are those in bad marriages. The happiest and the most miserable are married. So armed with the right education, a new set of healthy boundaries, and the determination to trust your gut and knowing better how to ask the Spirit, you are bound to find happiness in your next relationship. That was my goal today, was to bring you to this place where you have an understanding of boundaries, where you have a determination to trust your gut and knowing better how to ask the Spirit, so that you can find this amazing companionship that can bring so much happiness. We waited for a long time in the eternal world before we came here. And this is like the ultimate experience in our existence on the earth, is that love between a man and a woman. And it's also the most miserable if it's not right. Satan wants it to be miserable. He wants us to be miserable like himself. He will never have this relationship. So it's worth working for. It's worth not giving up on. I know a lot of people who are just not willing. They don't want to have anything to do with it ever again. They're not going to ever marry again. And I'm just saying to you, I have never been so happy in my life as the last 5 years that I've been with this guy. He treats me like a queen. He loves my children and grandchildren. My grandchildren think he walks on water. He's like their favorite person in the world. He anticipates people's needs, and he is just such a nurturing person. And he's so patient with me, which is amazing. So there are good guys out there. There are good women out there. Don't give up. It's worth trying and doing everything you can to get to this place. And Elder Russell M. Nelson says, I realize that many mature members of the church are not married. Through no fault of their own, they deal with the trials of life alone. Be we all reminded that in the Lord's own way and time, no blessings will be withheld from his faithful saints.